I have a bunch of things that I have to read. So let me do that. And so that we can make sure we have all that. All right. All right, so at the beginning of the year, I must do the following. This meeting is being held pursuant and in compliance with Ordinance 21A1, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during COVID-19 disaster. The members of the subcommittee who are electronically present at this meeting are Emily Lupke and Michael Rodemeyer and Christine Putnam. There are opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted in the Albemarle County website on the Albemarle County calendar. Participation include the opportunity to comment on those matters for which comments from the public will be received. All right, so I've disabled the chat, and then I was wondering, would either of you be willing to just take some notes for the meeting while we're having it? I mean, I can do it also at the end, but I have to go ahead and post some notes. They don't have to be, I don't think they have to be.
How thorough do they need to be?
I don't think they need to be super thorough.
And how soon do you need them?
I
have another meeting right after this, and I'm not good at like doing the meeting and typing at the same time. So I would be writing it down in a notebook.
Let's say maybe in a week or a few days. And okay. I've written down the agenda. So, but Emily, that would be great.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind just taking some notes.
Yep. I think hopefully if I remember, I should just be able to type it up tomorrow because it's supposed to be raining tomorrow and I'll be at home inside.
I totally get that. So I'm just our agenda, this is what's on our agenda. So I thought that I would give you guys an update on the Plant Northern Natives campaign. Are you guys familiar with that at all?
I am not. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm in the process of becoming a master gardener. And so I'm taking the training right now. And so I've had just an eye to what the master gardeners are doing. And they have a couple programs that dovetail that basically do a lot of the things that we have talked about doing in our committee and doing this outreach to landowners. And so right now they do a healthy lawns program, and that is really just talking to landowners about their lawn specifically. But I think part of the goal is to help people understand the connection to stream health. And so using that as a model, they're about to develop a couple programs. One is using that same model, this home landscape for wildlife program, where somebody could sign up and have a site visit, and then the volunteers would give them some guidance about how they can improve their landscape for wildlife. And what we're looking at is the possibility of getting some type of certificate or recognition, like this is a habitat-friendly yard. And the great thing is that the master gardeners, once they get the program up and going, will volunteers come up with a criteria. But I think it would be a great partnership for the Natural Heritage Committee to help and support and help promote the program once it gets going. So I'm excited about that. And right now there's the Plant Northern Natives campaign. And this is in partnership with Blue Ridge Prism and the Piedmont Environmental Council, and of course the Native Plant Society and the Master Gardeners. And it's going to start in Albemarle County. The Master Gardeners already have like brochure racks in gardening centers. And what they want to focus on is getting the gardening centers to carry native plants. And so those gardening centers that are agreeable could get a brochure rack that talks about what sort of species to plant for different conditions. and also a banner, and the possibility of getting pot stickers. And we've also talked about like starter kits. So if you wanted to start a small native garden in your yard, you could do the native garden in a box of 10 different species, or let's say 3 different species, depending on the size of your garden. But I think it's just a great opportunity to work with nurseries. And I know we had spoken about this in the NHC before, but isn't this amazing? You're this great group of people are working together to make it happen. So I've been part of some of the conversations that are happening with the master gardeners. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that, to let you know that that is happening. And, you know, I think there may be opportunities for us to support it and to help spread the word once the program's up and going.
Cool.
The other thing is, so these are the things that I just threw on this agenda, is that this idea of the Welcome to Albemarle landowner stewardship packet. And I wanted to really focus a little bit about that. And maybe we can come back to that, because I really hope that maybe we can move forward on this. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to share the Google Doc that I made. Let's see. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that.
Sorry.
But at any rate, you know, we had talked about the possibility of putting together some materials that we could send out to new landowners and focus on the conservation focus areas. And I know that Kim has spoken to somebody about using these automated systems that can, once a piece of parcel's purchased in a certain area, that they can automatically generate a notification. And so this can be done. It's just going ahead and kind of pursuing it and getting the details and making it happen. And so I have this list of things that need to happen with this. And I'm hoping that one of you will say yes to some of these things on this list, if you think it's a good idea and that we should move forward on doing this. So somebody that could really kind of dive in and work with Kim and find out, can that list be generated? Are they willing to do it? And sort of get moving on that. We would need a cover letter. And I would say that that would need to, you know, who is the NHC? What is the BAP? Where are the conservation areas? What can the landowner do in terms of protecting biodiversity? And then coming up with sort of a list of resources, or we could direct them to the NHC website and perhaps put those resources up there, so they would only have one link that they would click, because we've got a lot of resources on, you know, Kim's done a great job of getting that material up there. And then there are some great publications, and I don't know if I have, you guys have seen this brochure before.
Yeah.
I just really love it. And I love it because it hits so many key things in a very simple way. And, you know, it's not, I think it would be easy to reproduce, right? You could even do it in black and white, right? And they also talk about light pollution, which is just great that all these key little things are there with some simple tips about what you can do. So the PEC actually has a box of them. And when I had my conversation, because I don't know if I had shared that I'd had a conversation with the people at PEC, Rex Linville and Celia, how do you pronounce her name? Colo,
yeah,
I think it is.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm butchering her name. But you know, they were excited about it, and I need to follow through. But I wanted to really start with our group? Like, do we, can we really make this happen? But it sounds like there's a possibility that we could either use them. They're a little outdated, and they're referring to no local organizations in this panel here. So I sent an email to Celia to say, like, maybe she could direct me to the person who, possibility of reprinting it, and if we can get permission to, or to change it. So, but I really like this. It's simple and to the point. And
right, yeah, it just looks
there
like
are
a little bit more geared towards Leesburg and that area, right?
Right. And so, following up with that. And then there are some other resources here, which are, this is the 28-page one right here. It's just bulkier, but it's good. And then, so then the next question is, like, what information would be included, and then who would pay for the printing and the postage? So some of those things have to be decided. But I just want to say, what do you guys think about putting time and energy into this? I would be happy to be the person to put the packets together and to send them out, because somebody would need to do that, as those addresses were generated.
So Christine, this is, we were talking about trying to identify new landowners, and that's sort of certainly a manageable class, I think, of people to kind of keep track of and get in touch with. And I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's a pretty low resource kind of issue. I don't remember the issue about the costs of printing and mailing. That seemed to be the sticking point that we keep coming up against. Obviously, I think we can do a lot of this online. I mean, make a lot of these resources available online, so they don't need to be bulky mailings. But we certainly do want, at a minimum, a cover letter.
Yep.
With the explanation of all the things that you've cited here. I think these are the things that need to be in a letter, as well as, by the way, I would add a reassurance to landowners that this is actually good news and not bad news, in the sense that we're going to be, additional regulations or requirements are coming as a result of their being in an area that is of an issue of biological diversity or conservation focus. So, I don't have any, I don't think the mailings would likely every year to be substantial, given the likely turnover. But I think we would need to focus on what it is we really need to print. And otherwise, if it's a 3-page letter, that's not a big deal. I can do that on my inkjet. But if it's a brochure or something that actually needs to be printed, then that gets into other questions. And it just sounds like there's not a budget in the county to do that. And I don't know how else. I know I don't have any great ideas about how to do that.
I think you bring up a great point. It really, all these materials are online, and if I'm almost, in my mind, I'm thinking, what about, maybe it's just a letter, 1 page, and you fold it and you put the address on the outside and you put a stamp on it. It's like, you don't even need an envelope. And then maybe we don't put any brochures or any mailings. Like, maybe we just really focus on piloting just that. Welcome to Albemarle County. We want to introduce our advisory committee, and we want you to know that the county takes biodiversity seriously. All those things that you live in this conservation area, which only means
Right.
that you have an opportunity to help us. But of course, we cannot. Somebody's
Right.
got to wordsmith this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely envisioning it as an opportunity. I think
Yes.
especially if people realize that there's cost share programs and things like I understand what you're saying about like those being available online and on the NHC site. I would try to make sure that some of those things though are actually in the letter without being a too overwhelming a list.
Yeah.
Just because just that one extra step of have to go to the NHC site and then like navigate there. Like I think, you know, if there are cost share programs to help with some of this stuff or resources that that we're trying to share with them, like, hey, these things can help you. I think at least a few of those things have to, you know, have to make it into the letter themselves.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you can find out more about many of these topics here, you know, kind of one bigger link maybe.
Yeah. And maybe there is like the brochure for the ACE program. Maybe they're looking for a way to get those into people's hands and they've already printed them. So, you know, there's a possibility that it is just an envelope. Maybe we've got a letter that's double-sided, and maybe we can stick a brochure into that, you know, a trifold.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe looking at what we have available to us. But yeah, you're right. And you know, if we can avoid having to print these materials ourselves, other than the letter, and we can find already printed materials that those ACE wants to get in the hands of people, or the PEC, you know. But what I don't want to have happen is I feel like I opened the conversation with PEC, but now waiting around for them to make their move. Like, I feel like, let's just go ahead and pilot on a simple scale, and we can continue to have those conversations with people, and maybe it can be scaled up later as, you know, maybe PEC says, oh, we'll pay for postage and we want you to
Right.
include this later on.
Well, I could take a stab at putting together a cover letter. and-
Fantastic. That would be so
Yeah,
great.
that'd be great, Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be really good. Yeah. Yeah, I feel strongly like, yeah, opportunities. Like if you can, you know, just sort of get across somehow that, you know, thoughtful decisions on your part as to, you know, it doesn't stop you from, you know, making hay and doing the, you know, like it doesn't stop you from doing the activities you want to do with your land. But if you can thoughtfully make some decisions as to the timing and how you do things, you know, there could be real benefits, right? Both, and possibly both for you, you know, through cost share programs and to the wildlife, like, you know, so that they can kind of,
Yeah.
So.
That sounds great. Well, that would be terrific. If you can do that, Michael. And Emily,
Sure.
I don't know if there's anything on there that, you know, catches your attention that you would want to jump in on.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you've got some good resources already. So I think, you know, and like you said, some of these in that letter E, probably you might have a link already up on the NHC that you could kind of point to.
Yeah.
But yeah, this PEC one, I don't think I'd seen that one before. This 28 pager that you sent out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think, you know, the first step would be get the cover letter. And like, I don't even mind. I would contribute $100 to pay for postage, you know, just like it'll be my, you know, whatever. So we don't have to wait around for postage. So what I can do is I'm gonna take on the task of trying to figure out, can we get these addresses generated and get to the bottom of it?
Yep.
And, you know, and once we have the cover letter, then we can also be able to, you know, try to get approval for sending this out. Emily, do you want to contact the people ACE and see if they have a brochure that they might want to include.
Oh, the ACE people?
Yeah,
Okay.
like I've seen a brochure and I wonder if that would be
Brochure
something.
that they have for landowners already, you're saying?
I want to say that I thought that there was a brochure that ACE made, because it seems like when somebody came and talked to us, I can't remember who it was, about the ACE program, they gave us all a brochure.
Okay.
And did that happen, or is that my imagination? I think
You
so.
could be right.
Sounds right.
And I think that I remember taking and thinking, okay, who can I give this to? Because a part of it was like, give this out. I remember David, it's like, send us out to people, find somebody who you think might participate in the program.
Okay. Okay. So I see. So a letter not, okay.
Oh, I
Letter
just
to
want
landowners just to let them know about the ACE program.
no, I just want to know if ACE has some brochures that
Okay.
that we could stick in our packet.
Okay.
And if that's something they're interested in giving us, some of those brochures that we could send, that we could put in our packet.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you think that's?
No, I can certainly ask about that. I mean, we obviously don't want to duplicate, like if they're already doing something. I guess it was just a matter of feeling like Michael was suggesting, and I thought we were suggesting, like, just keep the letter like really small so that it isn't like a big packet of stuff, but just a simple letter.
Oh yeah. Well, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know which way we want to go. Like you said, like you could
Well,
just pilot it as like the simple letter with more like links and stuff. But if you want it to be a packet,
I say
then
pilot it, but also it just would be good to know what options we have in terms of already printed material that people would like to get out.
right.
So at least we'll have it in our back pocket.
Okay. So I'll just try to find out like what kinds of things they might already have
Yeah.
made up, and if they're sending them out or how they're distributing them right now.
Yeah. And if they would be willing to give us some that we could at some point give out in a packet.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, great. Any other thoughts on this? All right. And so I wish Bruce was here, because I think he was interested in the future presentation opportunities about the BAP, because Kim and I did give the presentation to the Monticello Bird Club. And what that did is there was somebody, I think it's the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation. I cannot recall his name off the top of my head, but we're going to be meeting with him on Friday. So it was interesting that that spurred further conversations, and the presentation is made. And it's basically, an overview of the BAP, and then there's a part where it just talks about some of the goals of the Natural Heritage Committee and some of the things that we're working towards. And so it's so easy to give a presentation these days, whether it's to the senior center or a Ruritan club, so what I thought is, if that's something that people are interested in, there's a possibility of pursuing that and getting the word out.
Christine, I haven't been to our webpage for a little while. Is that posted on there, the presentation?
Is it posted where? I'm sorry.
On our website, or, I mean, is it available to us to
Like
share?
Google Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the Google Drive.
It's in the Google Drive.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah.
Where
yeah,
is
okay.
it? I can send you guys the link because always that's question of how do you find it? But let me look for it and then I'll share that with you so you know where that is. But
Great.
if you think of a place that would be interested, I know that Kim did speak to the master naturalist, Kim, and I think David Hanna, I'm not sure, but I didn't see it. Did you guys see it? She said she spoke to the master naturalist about the BAP?
I didn't see it. No.
No.
Oh, no. So, maybe there are other opportunities. So I think to think about that. And I'll get together with Bruce about it. And do you guys have any thoughts about that though, before we move on?
Mm.
Like, I'd like, maybe the Farm Bureau would be interested. I don't know if they do a regular meeting, but at any rate, the last thing that I just wanted to bring up, which I'm super excited about, is I met with Jim Barber, who is the Albemarle County Parks Maintenance manager. And we met over at Dardentow, and we met with the manager of the Dardentow Park. And they are totally game for reducing mowing, and especially on some of the steep slopes. And so at the time I had offered to, help come up with some language for educational signage. But I ended up just last week, I sent him some examples and just an email, perhaps this is what the language should be included. And he was like, okay, this is all I need. And we're going to make it happen. So
Wow.
it doesn't seem like we need to work on that. So I wrote that in before I actually heard back from him about it. So, but I'm super excited. But I think that there are other opportunities. If either of you feel inspired to kind of go down the road of, I think the next place would be the Albemarle County Schools, because they do a lot of mowing. Like Walton Middle School would be an example of a lot of acreage, and the possibility of, I've learned a lot about this idea of conservation mowing. Are you guys familiar with that? And so the idea is you simply mow once a year, and that mowing happens in the beginning of March or the end of February. But the idea of it, right, is there's just so many wins. You can help promote bird habitat, you can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce maintenance costs. And this is happening, VDOT's adopting these policies. Also, this is true with the Virginia State Parks. And so if either of you are interested in like jumping in there and making contact with somebody at Albemarle County Schools, finding out like who's in charge of maintenance for them, and kind of going down the road.
Yeah. Sorry, can you remind me, Jim Barber, you said was from the county?
Albemarle County Parks.
Okay, so he's county parks. Okay.
Yeah.
Which the manager of Darden's kind of tricky, right? Because it's city and county kind of combined, right? So I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave that up to him to figure out, how
Yeah, no,
to the county.
That's great. So
City rather, yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were talking to Jim Barber, since he was with county parks, like I know you had originally addressed them about Walnut Creek. Is that also on the table for this, or what's the status on that?
Well, that would be the next thing that I should probably follow up with, is actually like taking a map and really being specific about I'm so glad this is happening at Darden Tow. Can we make it happen at Walnut Creek? The field where they lease it out to a farmer to mow it for hay, I just kind of let that go. Big,
Right. Is that you're talking about the big field up front at Walnut
Yeah.
Creek?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what they're doing. They're just leasing it for hay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because yeah, even my
And
kids are like, nobody plays up there, nobody does anything up there. Why?
Yeah. So maybe it's another voice, that would be helpful there. What I did talk to him about are on the parking lots next to the lake. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they're fairly steep. And, nobody walks up to, so there's a parking lot and there's kind of a steep hill on, I think it's the east side.
Are you talking about the parking lot way at the end near the beach house?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so what I want to do is like take a map and kind of circle those areas. But a lot of it, I think, is what's key is having the conversation with the person who actually does the maintenance at the park.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what was so key about my meeting with Jim Barber and the Darden Tow maintenance manager, who was really on board about not doing the mowing. For him, it was like, oh, this is going to free up a lot of time for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was,
and money.
Exactly.
Right.
So, the door's been opened, and Jim Barber definitely seems like he's on board. But like all things, I think you really have to take like an active approach, right? In terms of providing instructions to the people who are actually doing the mowing. So, so that's something that I can do, is follow through with him. Like, where else can we do this?
Christine, I'm wondering whether, I suspect if you can get the maintenance guy at Darden Tow to kind of document a little bit more what he's doing, and make him a resource for other maintenance leaders at the other parks, so that, this is not just something that's coming down from on high, but if we've got somebody who's an enthusiastic participant, and if he's willing to kind of share that with the other directors of maintenance at the other parks, that might be really helpful.
Yeah, and it's going to be dealing with the public is going to be a hurdle as well, because when I first started my conversation with Jim Barber, he was like, when COVID came and we were not mowing, they got a lot of complaints.
Really?
And so, yes. And so he's not used to hearing people say, don't mow the grass. It's all about the grass needs to get mowed. So I think what we can do, and perhaps we can see about doing some type of a social media message, like the tip of the month, and see if we can get that pushed out to help explain. I need to follow through with Jim and say, because I had mentioned to Jim, I said, can we use CAPE to help educate people, and so that people understand what's happening? Because like what he said is like, okay, the grass is growing and it'll be a month and people will be asking questions. What's happening here?
Right.
Why is the grass being mowed?
Right. And so you said that you gave him a little
Yeah.
few words about why that maybe he said that was enough. I mean, is he planning on putting up signs or?
Yeah, and I can share those things with you. But I found some examples of other counties, not necessarily in Virginia, although Fairfax has a reduced mowing schedule. And what's cool about Fairfax, and I did give him this information, I believe it's Fairfax, is they actually publish their mowing schedule and the places that they have on the conservation mowing. So it's really clear the public can understand. And they also publish the miles or the hours that are spent mowing and the acres mowed and the cost so that the public understands what's going on here. That it takes resources to do all this mowing. So, I
Big-
recommended, I said, this would be great, if you could have a spreadsheet like this.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So, but I can share with you the letter that I wrote, because I referenced, I think you guys already saw it perhaps, but I referenced, the climate action plan, examples of what is happening in Fairfax County and Virginia state parks. So I think, we have, it's a low-lying fruit in terms of climate change and the climate action plan,
Absolutely.
and it's it's an easy way to create habitat. The unknown part of it is, if you just simply stop mowing the fescue, what's going to come up and what will it look like? And so that's, for me, it's just going to be, this will be a test. And so I'm excited to just get out there. Maybe Emily, you go out there and take some pictures. And, if you can see if you can find, like, are there some flowers come up? Are there pollinators in it? What does it end up looking like?
Right.
And
yeah, no, that would be really good to know exactly what areas you've told them to not mow. Because I mean, I've noticed at Darden, like on the edges of things, sometimes when I've been out there, I'm like, oh, look at all this wonderful butterfly weed. And, like there are definitely some nice natives sort of that have been hanging around the edges sometimes of that property. And so, it would be good to know what.
Yeah, so as it turns out, under the power line right away, that there's a cross-country trail that runs around the park, the perimeter of the park, and the cross-country runners run underneath that big power line right away. Also, I learned that when they have their games, that's overflow parking. And so, because originally I thought, let's not mow that right away, but apparently it's that. So that's going to stay as overflow parking, and that's going to be mowed. But then as you go from the power line row, there is actually a creek that, I mean, it was wet and there was water just slightly flowing through there. And then there's a hill, and then there's the field, a soccer field. And so one of their concerns is, like, if we don't mow the creek, will it not? Oh, yeah, it was interesting. Thinking that if shrubs grew up in the creek, that would impede the water flow, and it would act as a dam and dam up the water. Where I'm thinking that that's going to simply act to absorb the water. But it kind of makes, intuitively, I could see why somebody might ask that question.
Right.
But this is a little wetland area, and so he's not going to mow the wetland or that wet place, and then up the hill, and then around there's I believe, is there a residence in the middle of Garden Town?
Yeah, where's the creek area where you're talking about?
It's not. It's more of a drainage. Let me see.
Yeah, I see the power lines, and I know what you're talking about. Like that, they go right next to like those tennis courts, and so I have seen cars that have been parked in that area. I definitely know what you're talking about.
So if you go from between the tennis courts and the soccer field, there is kind of a wet area. It's not really a creek, but there were sedges in there.
Okay.
You can see that it's probably wet good time part of the year.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I will say that it's sort of terraced. I know that I've definitely seen people playing on sort of the little spot below the soccer fields that's closest to the end of the other parking, the sort of the big arced parking. There's sort of a place that's a little lower there that definitely people use regularly for playing on. I don't know.
Yeah.
They'll get complaints, I guess is what I'm saying. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Uh,
If you put, I don't know if you put the screen up, but we could
yeah, let me see.
we
if
could
I
look
can-
at Google Maps or something. I just know like there's when we've been out there playing Ultimate, which hasn't happened in a very long time, but when we were out there playing Ultimate regularly, there were like oh, the people who like to like, you know, have like foam swords and pretend to dress up and do stuff. I don't know. I forget what the group is called, but
like
they
a
definitely were like,
cosplay or
they were definitely making regular use of that space because it's kind of flat. But I know what you're talking about down below that where it kind of drops off.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's see if I can. Uh, I'm trying to just get a map.
I would just go to
and see
Google
a picture of it.
Google Maps maybe and just put it in
Yeah.
satellite view.
Okay, here we go. Um. All right. Satellite. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm going to share my screen.
Well, you're still sharing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I still. Oh, you see it. Okay, fantastic. So
So the
my
place I
cursor-
mean is if you go from the tennis courts and there's an area, yeah, just around there. Yep, just
yeah.
sort of right up there. It's
So
flat there.
I believe the creek is God. It's just mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are the fields,
Yep.
and so this is actually a hillside
Yep.
down here, and so they're gonna not mow here.
Okay, that place
Along the-
right, just where you had your arrow closest to the parking lot, move it up. Yep, right in there. That's like
Yeah.
sort of terraced. It's like there's the field and then there's this other smaller, shorter place. And like that's where these people play all the time. That's where like I've had like I don't know, we've had like little soccer skills sessions on it and stuff like that. Like, so I'm just saying, like, I think they'll get complaints and maybe they know that. Like down from that, fine, but like right about where your arrow is, it's sort of like there's a terrace almost. It's like
Oh,
you have,
yeah. I don't think that any of the flat places.
okay,
So they're just gonna the place that it actually that is sloped.
the sloped.
Is
Okay,
where
yeah,
yeah, the sloped place.
sloped areas.
And then
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Anywhere
I
else?
think around this is a residence.
Yep.
There's some hills here, and then there's these places along this ball field. Like this is
Uh-huh.
pretty steep.
It is
looking
steep
down.
there. Yeah, there's stairs that go down there. It's quite steep.
Yeah, so talking about maybe not mowing this place right here.
Uh-huh.
And then apparently back here, they only mow once a year, so they're doing this conservation mowing back here already
Okay.
in this area. And they just do it once a year. So
Okay.
this is kind
Well,
of
that sounds
interesting.
good.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll see what happens with that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there that really is not used for anything. I'm thinking about as you go over to the boat ramp and then you keep going on that way on the right hand side there too, you know, like you said, kind of around that residence. Yeah,
right
in there, I'm
here.
like,
Yeah.
you know, on the other side of that driveway or whatever, as you keep
Yeah.
going, like
Like right in here.
yeah, I'm like, that's not used for anything, right? Like, I've never seen anybody there. The trail is on the opposite side of the road. You know, I can understand if they decide that they need to mow a little width along the trail or something, but like, yeah.
Do you go there often?
No, not super often, except for that, like, I'm familiar with it just because what I don't go there very often now that it's COVID, but like we were having youth ultimate there every Friday during the spring and fall. And then in the winter, adult ultimate league was often at Darden So like, yes, I would say
I
that
think-
in normal times, I am probably out there about once a week, except for during the summer.
Well, bring your camera, because if you find pollinators or birds,
Right.
we want to document it.
Okay.
And we want to say, look at what we've created here.
Right. And I wonder if there's
As a
a
way to-
way, like you said, that they're going to get a lot of negative, like, why aren't you mowing? Why aren't you mowing? I mean, I wonder if there's a way to let some other people, I know master naturalists, we can't be like political or whatever, but I'm wondering if there's ways to let groups know, like just informatively, like, hey, Natural Heritage Committee is working on this project to try to reduce in mowing and turn it into sort of conservation mowing strategies. Feel free to
Yeah.
let people know how you feel about, because there's probably a lot of people who, if they know it and they go out there and they see like, oh, wow, yeah, this is being left, like that they'll care, right? The birders might care if
Yeah.
there's more birds, and the naturalists might care if they see cool plants, or, and maybe they don't see the cool stuff necessarily right away, but they appreciate that it can't be there if it's continually mowed. And so this at least is a step in the right direction, right? So
Yeah.
that's a thought. If he needs,
I think that is a great idea. And to like spread the word and really support this decision that's being made, and doing our part to make sure that, they're not getting a bunch of flack. Right. Or counteracting the flack, because you're right, like I just became joined the bird club. So,
Yep.
I see that they're like real advocates, for that kind of space.
Definitely.
And to say, go out there, check it out. We would love to have people document, and if they see a change, or see if it is supporting.
Well, and there's so many of these like young birders and stuff. Like that Young Birders Club, like, I don't know if you've seen, but I mean, I don't know if I've seen anything lately, but like, when the YMCA went in, like they were out there like picking up dead birds off because of all that glass, and like getting articles in like, the Daily Progress or other places to bring attention to the fact that, hey, this is a problem, right? So there are definitely people, including young people, who are, really feel passionately about that kind of thing. So
yeah, I think everything is harder than you think. It, in a way that you can't just say, oh, it's magically done, because you're right. It's as much as we can document it, spread the word, get people on board, that's going to make it more successful.
Right. I'm thinking like you get the Master Naturalist like newsletter or something, right? It could be just like, they're always asking for like, hey, do you have any content for the newsletter, right? And you could be like, hey, I'm in charge of the NHC, and here's a couple of the things we're working on. You know what I'm saying? And just get it in the Master Naturalist newsletter, so people will be like, oh, hey, look at that. That's a good idea. Glad they're doing that. It's not asking them to necessarily speak up directly, but if they're informed, then,
that sounds fantastic.
It's a great idea.
All right, we'll put that on there for me to do. I'm going to follow through with Jim Barber and, talk to him about, and say that I'm going to be doing a little bit of advertising.
Yeah. That'd be good.
And I might also mention those places over at Walnut Creek as well.
Right. Yeah, I think if you've got Jim Barber's ear, I mean, why not like, make it sort of the grand tour of the county parks, and sort of, get them on board, right? I think there's different, like, I think there's park management places at a couple of the parks that, like, I think Walnut Creek is one of them, maybe. And like, maybe they also manage like Tocher Creek or some of the other, like other ones. Like, I think I've looked this up before, but like Darden is special that it has its sort of own management, but I think there's a limited
huh.
number. I think there's a limited number of people. What is what I'm trying to get at is that there's not like maintenance managers for each individual county
I see.
park. I don't think. I think there's like, you know, this manager does several parks and this manager does several parks, and that they have like their, like I think they have a shed at Walnut Creek where they like station like some of their equipment and stuff, but then they
Yeah.
probably haul it to other places. Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like not every park
Yeah.
has facilities for keeping the equipment and stuff like that. And so I think that sort of centralizes, and so you might not have to reach to individual people for every park. If you've got Jim Barber on board and then maybe a couple more
Right.
managers, your reach to the parks might get big. So
Yeah. That sounds great. I didn't think I would
but
be
I like your
interested in
idea
that.
of scoping out, and I love the county parks. So, you know, if you need like somebody to like go and scope a park and say, hey, you know, what about these areas? Like draw on Google Maps, just sort of a quick sketch, like, you know, polygons, like,
Yeah,
hey,
I do.
couldn't you do this?
I'm gonna, yes, I'm giving you that job. You're gonna, when you're out there doing it. Because, you know, I only get to Walnut Creek and, you know, I could go down to Todier, but I haven't been there in quite a while.
Right.
But yeah, when you're
Yeah,
out.
I think they do a pretty good job actually at Todier. Like I don't feel like there's excessive mowing there.
Mostly wooded.
Yeah, it's mostly wooded, and they keep the edges of the lake pretty natural. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's worth checking, but yeah, I don't think that there's much scope there. I think the places that have more recreation, I guess, are the
Yeah.
ones that are the biggest problems. But
Yeah. And then, well, I drive by Walton Middle School, and
mhm.
that is just an ecological desert.
Mm.
It's just, you know, I think there could be a big improvement over there. And maybe what I need to do is, I know that one of the science teacher over there, I need to reach out to her. And of
Yeah,
course,
that's a good
in
idea.
the middle of COVID, she's probably exhausted. And that like, okay, Christine.
Yeah, but you're right
Yeah.
that there's opportunities to get teachers involved, because then they can get the students involved and get them excited about, like, you know, participating. And
Yeah, maybe that'll have to wait until this summer after a little a month of relaxation and deep breaths.
I think that sounds like a good idea. I think the teachers are just overwhelmed this year.
Yeah.
But
But anyhow, well, do you guys have anything else that you want to add before we finish up?
Yeah, I had a quick question, whether anybody knows anything about the Zoom webinar that the county did earlier this week to I guess it was marketed to the neighborhood housing associations on stream health and sustainable landscaping. Do you
Did
guys?
that happen last Friday?
It was the 26th. Yeah, that's Friday. I think that's right.
You know, you can go and see all those webinars. They're all recorded. And I've tuned into all of them except the very first one. They're great. They're so informative.
So who
And
was sponsoring these? And
well, Kim's organizing it.
I
Like she's
see.
the
Okay.
lead person. And then what she's done is, like the RCA, she's gotten all these great speakers.
Great. Okay.
And so one was about water quality, one is like our whole water system and how is it engineered. That they've been just really interesting and well done. And I don't know how many, they've had a lot of people tuning into it, but yeah, I wanted to see the one of the HOA. And I
Yeah.
think Delia Vocalo, I can't pronounce her last name. I think that maybe she was part of that.
Great. Okay. I just got it because I get the email from Albemarle County, but I hadn't
Yeah.
known that was coming up, but I'll go back and check it out.
It's a little hard to find because I've looked and it's sort of buried in there, but they're all recorded. And so you can see them. And I'd recommend taking a look at those.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. So if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything else you think that we should be talking about, but I think if we can get our landowner packet, that would be great, or letter going, that'd be terrific.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks,
All right,
Christine,
great.
for getting us organized.
Well, I'm excited. We finished our first subcommittee meeting, and I'll check the rules and make sure we followed all of them. I think we did. And you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you Thursday.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, the first of the month. It's
the same
sort
time.
of a midweek thing. I'm used to them falling where I have I don't know, I have multiple things that happen the first Monday or the first Thursday or whatever, but
Yeah.
But this one's kind of split this time, which is actually kind of nice to have the first in the middle of the week.
Yeah. Well, it's April Fools too, so
Yeah.
Oh, right.
there won't be too much foolishness happening.
All
Okay,
right.
take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
evening. All right.
Bye-bye.
bye.